Listen to me with your heart. There is a verse in the Book of Allah that has lifted families from the edge of poverty, erased debts, opened doors people thought were shut forever, and brought Barakah into homes that were drowning in fear and uncertainty. A verse that does not just change your money, it changes your destiny. Most people recite it without knowing the power it carries, but those who understand it, even once, never look at their struggles the same again. Before we continue, tell me, from where are you watching this video, and what time is it right now? When poverty walks into a home, it doesn't come alone. Poverty is never just the absence of money, it is the presence of a storm that touches every corner of a home. It enters silently, but it brings with it fear, sleepless nights, arguments whispered behind closed doors, and a weight on the heart that becomes heavier with every passing day. It makes parents question their worth, makes children sense stress they cannot explain, and makes even small moments of joy feel distant and fragile. Homes that once felt warm begin to echo with worry, and dreams that once felt close begin to fade under the burden of survival. Yet even in these moments of suffocating pressure, Allah watches every tear, every sigh, every quiet prayer whispered into the darkness. Poverty may shake a home, but it cannot break a heart that still believes. And Allah never allows a believer to remain lost in hardship without sending a rope of hope. For every family that struggles, for every servant who feels overwhelmed, for every hand that feels empty, there is a verse waiting to pour light into their home. This chapter of your life is not a punishment, it is an awakening. It is Allah calling you closer, polishing your heart, preparing you for a relief that carries more barakah than you have ever tasted. And the verse we are about to speak of is not simply a recitation, it is a divine promise that has brought abundance to homes that had nothing but faith left. The divine law of Rizq that most people never understand. Every believer knows that Allah provides, but very few understand how He provides, when He provides, and why He sometimes withholds before He gives. Poverty blinds us to this divine system, but this verse uncovers the truth. Your risk is not tied to your job, your business, your degree, or the economy around you. It is tied to the one who wrote your destiny before you opened your eyes to this world. There are homes that struggle despite hard work. There are people who try every strategy and still feel stuck. There are sincere hearts that make efforts day and night, yet nothing seems to move. This is not failure. This is Allah holding your situation in place until your heart learns the lesson your wealth cannot teach. Before Allah opens a door in your life, He opens an understanding in your soul. And this verse is that understanding. When a believer recites it with awareness, something remarkable happens. The chains tying their provision begin to loosen. The invisible blockages that were stopping Rizq begin to fall away. Opportunities start approaching them without warning. The world around them remains the same, yet the path through that world becomes clearer, lighter, and guided. This verse reveals a secret, that Rizq is not increased by stress, panic, or fear. It is increased by trust, surrender, and spiritual alignment. It teaches that the one who feeds every bird in the sky and every creature beneath the earth has already measured your provision, protected it, and written its arrival with perfect timing. No power on earth can delay what is meant for you, and no hand can snatch away what Allah has secured. People who tasted the sweetness of this verse did not simply watch their money increase, they watched their life transform. They found barakah in the smallest income, unexpected support in difficult moments, and relief from places they never imagined. They began to understand that true abundance does not come from the world, it comes from the one who owns the world. And when a home begins reciting this verse with faith, the atmosphere changes. Anxiety softens. Doors begin to open. Hearts begin to calm. Because Allah is not simply giving, He is comforting, guiding, protecting, strengthening, and preparing the believer for a Rizq that arrives with peace, not pressure. This is the secret behind poverty leaving a home. It is not just wealth entering, it is trust returning. What this verse awakens inside you before it changes your life. Before Allah changes your circumstances, He changes something far more important: the state of your heart. And this verse is not just information you recite, it is a transformation you feel. When it enters the heart with sincerity, it begins working in ways no one around you can see, yet everyone around you can sense. It starts by dissolving the fear that poverty plants inside you. Fear of tomorrow, fear of bills, fear of failure, fear of asking for help, fear of watching your dreams fade. These fears cling to the soul, controlling decisions, shrinking ambitions, and imprisoning the believer in an invisible cage. But the moment this verse reaches the heart, those fears begin to loosen their grip. It is as if Allah gently whispers to you, "You are not alone. I am enough for you." When this understanding settles, your view of the world shifts. Suddenly, you realize that the people you were depending on were never in control. The job you were scared to lose was never the source. The opportunities you missed were never meant to harm you. Your risk was never tied to human hands. It has always been tied to the heavens. And the one who owns the heavens has never forgotten you. Then something else awakens courage. The courage to try again after failing. The courage to hope again after being disappointed. The courage to believe that your life can still open in ways that make no sense to the world but perfect sense to Allah. This courage does not come from motivation. It comes from surrender. When you realize that Allah measures your risk with precision, you stop worrying about outcomes and start focusing on sincerity, honesty, and effort. But the most powerful transformation is Barakah. When this verse lives in your heart, Barakah flows into your work, your home, your time, your decisions, and even your thoughts. You begin to see help appear before you ask for it. You take steps that feel guided. You meet people sent to you at the exact moment you need them. Your income may remain the same at first, yet it feels more than enough. This is not mathematics, this is mercy. And while others rush, panic, and chase the world, your heart becomes anchored. You begin carrying yourself with a quiet confidence. Not because you have everything figured out, but because you finally understand who is writing your story. You stop begging the world and start turning to Allah with calmness, knowing that what is written for you cannot pass you, and what passes you was never written for you. This verse is not only about removing poverty from your home, it is about removing poverty from your heart. Poverty of trust, poverty of hope, poverty of faith. Once these vanish, material poverty cannot survive for long, because a heart strengthened by this verse is a heart that attracts ease, guidance, and abundance from the one who never breaks his promise. And when Allah sees a servant relying on him alone, the world must open, because the world is only a tool, and Allah is the provider. The silent miracles that begin before the Rizq appears, long before money enters your hands, long before opportunities rise, long before debt begins to melt away. Allah sends signs that your Rizq is already on the way. Most people never recognize these signs, so they mistake divine preparation for difficulty. But a believer who recites this verse with trust begins noticing changes that are subtle, quiet, almost invisible, yet they are the strongest proof that Allah has not forgotten them. First, you begin losing interest in relying on people. The ones you expected help from suddenly become distant. Doors you thought were guaranteed start closing. Plans you made with confidence fall apart in strange, unexpected ways. To the unaware heart, this feels like things are getting worse. But to the heart attached to Allah, this is a powerful message. I am removing the weak ropes so you can hold firmly to mine. When Allah wants to give you pure rizq, He removes every hand that takes credit for it. Then Allah softens your heart in ways you didn't ask for. You begin feeling the weight of your own reliance on the world. You begin questioning your fear, your doubts, your constant worry. And slowly, beautifully, the heart starts shifting from panic to patience, from stress to surrender. This internal shift is not random. It is the spiritual ground being prepared for abundance. Rizq cannot enter a heart filled with fear. It enters a heart filled with trust. After that, something divine begins to happen around you. Situations that once caused problems begin to calm. People who once brought negativity begin to fade out. Paths you never considered begin to glow faintly in the distance. The believer does not understand the full picture yet, but they sense something moving, a gentle rearranging of life that feels too intentional to be coincidence. This is Allah organizing your life according to a plan far more merciful than your own. And then, the tests begin, not to punish you, but to strengthen you. Rizq that is forced onto a weak heart becomes a burden, but rizq placed into a heart trained by patience becomes a blessing. So Allah may tighten your situation just a little more, not to break you, but to polish you, to remove the last traces of doubt, to purify your trust, to make your heart ready for the abundance written for you long ago. These tests are not delays, they are confirmations that the door is about to open. Because when Allah prepares something for you, He prepares you for it first. People wonder why reciting this verse changes lives. It is because this verse is not merely spoken, it is lived. It transforms your internal world until your external world has no choice but to follow. It rebuilds your thinking, your trust, your courage, your emotional strength. It teaches you to walk with a quiet certainty that whatever is meant for you will arrive, and whatever is not meant for you will be removed gently. And when a believer reaches this state, a state of true reliance, then Allah's promise activates, not by noise, not by dramatic signs, not by overnight miracles alone, but by a consistent, powerful rearrangement of life that leaves no doubt. You relied on Allah, and Allah is now unfolding His promise. And what is coming is always better than what was lost. When Allah begins opening doors the world tried to close, there comes a moment, often quietly, without any announcement, when the effects of this verse begin manifesting in a believer's life. It does not start with a dramatic miracle. It begins with tiny shifts that feel insignificant at first, but they are the earliest drops of a coming downpour of mercy. A believer who recites this verse with trust starts noticing that things which used to drain them no longer have the same power. Worry begins to lose its sharpness. Fear begins to lose its voice. The constant pressure of financial stress still exists, but it no longer crushes the heart the way it once did. This calmness is not from the world, it is from Allah, who places tranquility before He places abundance. This is His way, His pattern, His divine sequence. Then opportunities start appearing in places you never looked before. A conversation you almost ignored suddenly becomes the gateway to something bigger. A closed door opens with no logical explanation. A risk you were afraid to take begins shining with possibility. And sometimes, help comes through someone who barely knows you, someone Allah chose as a vehicle for what He has written for you. But the most beautiful sign is this: your effort becomes blessed in a way it never was before. The same job, the same income, the same routine, suddenly it carries barakah. Money stretches further, needs shrink, unexpected savings appear. Things last longer than usual. Decisions become clearer, doubts reduce, and your heart begins understanding a truth most people never realize. Allah does not always increase your wealth first. He increases your barakah, because true wealth is not measured by numbers. It is measured by peace, contentment, stability, and the ease with which Allah guides your life. People around you may not see the transformation, but they begin sensing a difference. You walk with more confidence. You speak with more gratitude. You stop complaining about what is missing and start noticing what is present. You stop chasing the world and start witnessing how the world begins moving toward you. And then comes the moment of divine generosity, the moment every believer waits for, though they never know when it will come. Suddenly, an opportunity opens so flawlessly, so perfectly aligned with your needs, that you know it is not from your efforts, nor from luck, nor from people. It is from Allah, who was shaping your life while you thought nothing was happening. It may be a job offer that stabilizes your home. It may be a debt that unexpectedly gets cleared. It may be a path that leads you toward long-term security. It may be an idea that transforms your livelihood. It may be a person who becomes the turning point Allah wrote for you years ago. This is the moment when you look back and finally understand every delay, every hardship, every tear, every closed door, every prayer that felt unanswered. You begin to see the map. Allah was drawing a map that was leading you to a provision that is not only enough for your life, but enough for your heart. And just when you think Allah has given you all that you hoped for, He gives you something even greater. He removes the fear of losing your rizq, because you now understand that what comes from Allah does not require fear, and what is protected by Allah cannot be taken by anyone. This is the true wealth this verse brings. Not just money, but certainty. Not just income, but barakah. Not just comfort, but divine companionship. And once a believer reaches this level of trust, life becomes lighter, clearer, and filled with a quiet happiness that poverty can never erase and wealth can never replace. When reliance on Allah becomes stronger than the fear of poverty, there comes a stage in every believer's journey where the hardship that once terrified them becomes the very reason they rise. A stage where the heart finally understands that rizq is not something you chase, it is something Allah sends when your trust becomes sincere. This is not learned in a day, nor mastered through comfort. It is shaped slowly through every moment of pressure Allah used to strengthen you, not break you. By the time this verse settles fully into your chest, something extraordinary begins to happen. The fear of poverty that once controlled your decisions, your emotions, and your sleep begins to fade. Not because your situation has dramatically changed yet, but because you have changed. The believer who felt fragile now feels anchored. The believer who once cried out of fear now cries out of gratitude. The believer who once begged the world for openings now lifts their hands only to the one who opens the heavens. This shift is not small. It is the birth of a new inner world. You stop measuring your life by income figures. You stop seeing money as safety. You stop believing that people hold your future. You stop worrying about missing opportunities, because your heart whispers a truth stronger than all of them. My provider has never failed me, and he will not start now. This is when Allah begins to honor you with a form of rizq, far beyond money, the rizq of inner strength. You begin walking with a calmness that others cannot understand. You find yourself making bold decisions with a clarity that surprises even you. You no longer chase shortcuts or questionable ways of earning, because your trust is too high and your dignity too precious to compromise. And this inner transformation becomes the magnet for abundance. Allah does not place wealth into hands that are full of fear. He places wealth into hands that are steady, grateful, responsible, and connected to Him. So He prepares you, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and even practically, until you become a vessel worthy of the rizq written for you long ago. At this stage, your dua becomes stronger, not louder, stronger in belief, in certainty, in surrender. When you say, Ya Rab, provide for me, the weight of your trust carries the dua to the heavens in a way it never did before. Your gratitude deepens. Even small blessings feel big. Even small improvements feel meaningful. Even slow progress feels beautiful. Because you are no longer counting money, you are counting mercy. And Allah responds to this type of heart with a generosity that reshapes a person's entire life. You begin witnessing barakah in unexpected moments. A discount you didn't seek, a solution you didn't imagine, a gift you didn't ask for, a path that appears with perfect timing. You realize that Allah's help does not always arrive through dramatic miracles. Sometimes it arrives through gentle rearrangements, so precise and so timely that only a believer recognizes them as signs. And this is when one of the greatest blessings enters your life. The fear of poverty leaves your home entirely. It is replaced by a quiet certainty, a serene knowing that your rizq is protected, measured, guided, and delivered by the Creator, who never forgets His servants. This is a level of wealth no bank account can match, because when fear leaves, Barakah enters. And where Barakah enters, poverty cannot remain. When Allah shows you that poverty was never your destiny, there comes a moment, a quiet, sacred moment, when the believer finally realizes that everything they went through had a purpose. The sleepless nights, the unseen sacrifices, the prayers whispered with trembling hands, the moments of confusion where nothing made sense, the times you looked at your situation and wondered if relief would ever come. All of it was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and spiritually sharper than you ever imagined yourself to be. Poverty was never your destiny. It was the valley you walked through so Allah could teach you how to climb the mountain. And once this verse begins living inside your heart, your entire story starts to look different. You stop seeing your past as a collection of failures. You start seeing it as a map Allah Himself designed to bring you to this very point, this very faith, this very strength. You realize that every moment you felt abandoned, you were actually being protected. Every door that slammed in your face was saving you from a path that would harm your heart. Every delay was a mercy. Every hardship was a preparation. Every tear watered the seed of Tawakkul growing inside you. And now that seed has become a tree of trust, a tree of Barakah, a tree of certainty that not only shades your future, but shades everyone living in your home. You begin seeing signs of Allah's care in places you once overlooked. A conversation that comforts you, a job lead that appears out of nowhere, a small earning that arrives at the perfect time, a worry that suddenly lifts, a new idea that sparks hope, a heart that no longer panics at every challenge. These are not accidents, they are the footsteps of relief approaching you with quiet precision. And through this journey, you start to understand something life-changing. Allah never tests you to break you. He tests you to build a door that only He can open. The world might measure your worth by your bank account, but Allah measures your worth by the strength of your trust. And the moment your trust becomes anchored, your rizq becomes anchored too. This is why scholars said that this verse removes poverty not only from homes, but from hearts. Because the moment you stop fearing poverty, you stop attracting it. The moment you stop relying on people, you stop being disappointed by them. The moment you place your life in Allah's hands, your provision begins flowing from directions your mind could never imagine. And the greatest sign that Allah is lifting you, your heart becomes calm before your situation changes, because Allah gives sakina before He gives abundance. He gives peace before He gives prosperity. He gives trust before He gives treasure. This is when you finally understand the hardship was never meant to last. The pain was never meant to define you. The emptiness was never meant to follow you. It was simply the night before the dawn, a necessary darkness before a divine opening. And now, with your heart ready, your trust firm, your soul strengthened, you are prepared to receive the verse that has changed the destiny of countless believers, the verse that Allah Himself tied to relief, abundance, protection, and freedom from every form of poverty. The verse that removes poverty from homes, not because of its sound, but because of the promise hidden within it. My beloved brothers and sisters, if there is one truth you must carry from this reminder, it is this: poverty does not define you, fear does not belong to you, and helplessness was never written for a heart that trusts in the one who controls the heavens and the earth. Your situation may look closed, heavy, and impossible, but nothing is impossible for the one who created every door and every key. Recite the verse we shared. Hold it close. Let it live in your heart, the way rain lives in the clouds, ready to fall with mercy at any moment. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not walking through hardship alone. Allah sees every effort you make. He hears every dua your heart whispers. He knows the weight you carry, even when you hide it from the world. And relief is never far from the one who relies on Him. May your home be filled with barakah that grows quietly, beautifully, and consistently. May your debts melt away with ease. May your rizq flow from places you never expected. May your heart find peace, your mind find clarity, and your life open in ways that make you fall into sujood in gratitude. And may Allah write for you a destiny filled with stability, abundance, and light. If this message touched you, share it. Someone's heart out there is praying for a reminder just like this.